Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, August 23rd, time for the PM edition of C2-A-Days from Campus to Canton. I'm Nicholas Ian Allen, and we've just got a few of these videos left as we inch toward week 0 kicking off. We will be wrapping up our C2-A-Days at the end of this week, but we very much appreciate the kind words. Hope that these have been very helpful. And if so, would absolutely love if you would like this video and the others that we have done and will do to finish out the week, and then subscribe to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. That really helps us out, and we very much appreciate it. Starting today, a pretty interesting note caught my eye, a quote, I should say. Bill Robinowitz of the Columbus Dispatch had a piece out today about Carnell Tate, the highly rated true freshman wide receiver for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Has really impressed a lot of folks recently. For a while now, obviously, as highly rated as he has been. But coming out, as a true freshman, establishing himself as a potential option for Ohio State in his first year, quoting a couple of important pieces of that offense. First, wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. on Tuesday, according to Rabonovitz, Carnell, quote, Carnell is going to be special, man. I think Carnell is probably at a better point right now than I was going into my sophomore year last year. He's amazing. So Harrison, pretty much most would say is the top wide receiver in the country. Certainly going to be a high NFL draft pick very soon. And according to him, and he has some pretty impressive bloodlines as well. So has been around the game for a long time, seen a lot. Says that Carnell Tate is probably better right now than Harrison was even a year into his college career. So pretty lofty words. And then head coach Ryan Day also was impressed. Carnell Tate, quote, Carnell Tate continues to impress, to go through what he's been through this month, and then to just continue to show up every day and play the way he's playing. You're talking about someone who not only has talent, but has maturity at a high level. So Tate has sadly dealt with some personal tragedy this month. But, Ryan Day mentioned how mature he is. He wasn't the only one to use that word to describe Carnell Tate. His position coach, Brian Hartline, and the offensive coordinator at Ohio State also was very, very high on Tate, had some glowing words to say. Again, quoting from the piece, he has definitely put himself in a position to play very, very meaningful reps, according to Hartline. That's not just me. That's the room in agreement. That wasn't my choice. Peers know. If I have a question, I go ask the guys and they let me know, and we're on the same page. So Carnell Tate is just getting glowing reviews from plenty of important people at Ohio State. Not expecting him to start immediately. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka Egbuka are both incredible talents. Julian Fleming is a returning starter as well. You would expect that those three are probably going to be the primary pass catchers out with the first group for the majority of this season, certainly early on. And there's some depth there as well. Guys like Xavier Johnson, Jaden Ballard, and there are other talented true freshmen as well. Obviously, Ohio State has recruited incredibly well at that position. But Tate is quickly making a name for himself on campus after making a name for himself as one of the top recruits in the country. So thought it was important to mention that Carnell Tate impressing just about everybody in Columbus, it seems. We've got a few starting quarterback notes, as has been the case most of this week. We're getting a trickle here and there of teams naming their starting quarterbacks officially. Not too many surprises at Virginia Tech. Andy Bitter tweeted out after a post-practice interview with head coach Brent Pry that Grant Wells has been named the starter for the Hokies. Damian Sordelet from the Roanoke Times, was also there and mentioned that Pry said Baylor transfer Kyron Drones, who had been the primary competition for Grant Wells, is going to play each and every week. Price said when preparing for Virginia Tech is, quote, you have to prepare for both Grant and Kyron. So even though Wells has officially gotten the nod, will be that first quarterback behind center in week one. I do expect that Kyron Drones, who has really showed, I remember reading about him as a true freshman at Baylor, had put together a pretty impressive performance, but transferred, looked for an opportunity, didn't quite work out to be the week one starter, but obviously has done enough to prove that he's capable of making a contribution on the field, and sounds like he will be involved, even if not the starter for the Hokies to start. At Utah, a little bit more uncertainty. Joe Coles of the Deseret News wrote up. There obviously plenty of other folks following this story as well. But Kyle Whittingham, the head coach of the Utes, had mentioned that Cam Rising, is not yet fully cleared by doctors. And if he was not going to be cleared by Thursday, this is according to Coles, as Whittingham was on a radio show, said that, quote, we have to make some decisions at the quarterback position for the Florida game. Cam Rising is not the only starter for Utah who is questionable at best. Brent Keithy, the star tight end, also is considered day-to-day, according to Whittingham. But it was noted here by Coles that Whittingham said Rising is, quote, progressing through practice. Continued to say, obviously, we're keeping things somewhat close to the vest just because, but I don't know in the final analysis if it's a big deal or not. We're truly unsettled right now, so there's really no deception at this point. It's just see how things progress day to day, and that was according to Whittingham. So a week or so ago, we mentioned that Bryson Barnes, who stepped in when Rising went down in the Rose Bowl, and the walk-on would be the starter if the game had been that day. But it sounds like, according to Whittingham, redshirt freshman Nate Johnson has really closed the gap. Whittingham said, quote, Nate's closed the gap and they're exactly in a dead heat at this point. Also said that they are on equal footing. So there's been a lot of chatter. Will Cam Rising be ready? We certainly hope everything is going well in his recovery. Hope he is cleared quickly. But as Utah gets ready for that pretty big week one game with Florida, it's starting to sound more and more like maybe we shouldn't expect Rising to be out there. Cal Whittingham, even though saying it's not that they're trying to be deceptive, but in my experience following Utah and sort of what Whittingham, how he has discussed injuries and things like that with the media, I was a bit skeptical that this was going to be really something that was going to get cleared up at all, to be quite honest. Seemed like Rising and sort of the quote that's made the rounds that Whittingham said in jest about we might take it up to 10 minutes before game time or something along those lines, paraphrasing there. That honestly seems about right. And maybe even, I wouldn't put it past them to wait within that 10 minutes till the team takes the field. So we'll see. Hopefully Rising is back and healthy quickly. Same for Keithy. But if not, it sounds like that Bryson Barnes and Nate Johnson are both, as of right now, equally capable of stepping in and being that next quarterback up. At UConn, the Huskies have made a somewhat surprising, unexpected decision on their starting quarterback. Joe Fagnano, the transfer from Maine, is going to start week 1 for the Huskies. Joe Arruda of the Hartford Courant was following the story, tweeted it out, and also made note that offensive coordinator Nick Charlton, who is in his second year at UConn, was previously the head coach at Maine, where Fagnano was the starter. Has started more than 20 games in his career, so is actually the most experienced quarterback who was in this competition. Taquan Roberson, who was the week 1 starter last year, went down with an injury very, very early on, and then Zion Turner, who started basically the remainder of the season, played just about every snap the remainder of the season as a true freshman. Both came up short in this competition. They're going to go with Fagnano, who's played in 27 games at the FCS level, made 25 starts, hasn't been super productive, but is experienced and has a relationship with the offensive coordinator Charlton. Perhaps there's just a little more familiarity is not necessarily the word I'm looking for, because Roberson and Turner were part of the program and the offense with Charlton last year. But my thought coming in was that Roberson maybe had the higher ceiling, and maybe you can make an argument Turner does too. But perhaps Fagnano is just the more consistent, maybe has a higher floor potentially. So UConn looking for a little bit better quarterback play. Turner did what he could do as a true freshman, forced into duty. But the Huskies certainly looking for an upgrade if they're going to make another run at a bowl game. And it seems like, at least to start, Joe Fagnano is the one to get that nod. At Georgia, some very unfortunate news about sophomore tailback Branson Robinson. According to Kirby Smart, and this was tweeted out by Seth Emerson of The Athletic, among others, Robinson is going to be out for the season after suffering a ruptured patella tendon. It was a non-contact injury on Tuesday. And I am no injury expert, but I know in our C2C Slack, and I do believe we've got a few folks in the medical industry, some physical therapists in the group, and this ruptured patella tendon led to a lot of distressed notes and reaction. So Robinson, very, very unfortunate, highly regarded coming into Georgia. Looked like he might have an opportunity really to carve out a role this season, but unfortunately is not going to be able to take the field for the Bulldogs this year. Kendall Milton wasn't mentioned by Kirby Smart, according to what I've read. He has been still dealing with a hamstring injury. So it sounds like, last we checked, and as we mentioned before, Dajon Edwards is getting the bulk of the reps with the number 1 offense, but have been hearing some real positive things about Andrew Paul lately, the redshirt freshman who himself is coming off of a significant knee injury that cost him last year. And then Roderick Robinson, this year's most highly rated true freshman, as well as Cash Jones, who we've mentioned a couple of times, is having a really strong fall as well. So, at Georgia, there's no lack of talent, and though the missing Robinson, potentially having Milton limited, is a hurt, a shot to that depth. But there are a lot of options available for Georgia. So hopefully Robinson will be able to get back quickly, get healthy. But from a pure football standpoint, Georgia is probably going to be just fine. At Colorado State, following up yesterday's mention of Avery Morrow, who is eligible, according to the university, to get back and play this year. Kevin Lytle of the Coloradan, who we mentioned yesterday, followed up to say that head coach Jay Norvell said on Wednesday that Kobe Johnson, the transfer from North Dakota State, who we have mentioned before, is effectively co-number 1 with Avery Morrow as the Rams enter the season. At Iowa, Noah Shannon, a starter, two-year starter on the defensive line, was given a full season suspension, according to head coach Kirk Ferentz, who met with the media today. There is a plan, it sounds like, for Shannon to appeal, but he is yet another player in the state of Iowa, impacts Iowa and Iowa State. We've mentioned plenty of times already the gambling allegations, scandal, and charges that are going around there. Ferentz shared some thoughts on the state of Iowa being somewhat singled out in this scenario. But unfortunately, yet another player is implicated, and Shannon specifically has been handed down that full season suspension. Another note from Ferentz on quarterback Cade McNamara, who has been out for a little while. That first scrimmage a couple of weeks ago has not yet returned to practice and is considered questionable for the season opener. So kind of similar thoughts, I suppose, to Utah. The closer we get to kickoff, especially if McNamara is not practicing, it's going to be difficult to get up to speed potentially in time. So it sounds like there's maybe a decent chance that we don't see Cade McNamara in week 1 for the Hawkeyes. At TCU, our final couple of notes today come from Stephen M. Johnson of the Fort Worth Telegram. A couple of tweets said that in the scrimmage recently, head coach Sonny Dykes singled out JoJo Earle, Imani Bailey, and Jordan Bailey as standout performers, as well as pass rusher Nnamdi Obiozor. And then Johnson followed up to ask Dykes if Imani Bailey had shown that he's the guy at running back. According to Dykes, said that Bailey has been the most consistent. So in our CFB Winning Edge team profiles, our depth chart projections, honestly, Bailey's been number 2 pretty much the entire time. Trey Sanders, who has been dealing with a lot of injuries, has dealt with a lot of injuries, I should say, in his past, appears to be up to full speed. I believe I remember reading he maybe had been limited a practice or 2 early on, but seemed like he was probably the favorite in this competition to be the top ball carrier for the Horned Frogs. But Bailey has been impressive, according to reports and according to head coach Sonny Dykes. So perhaps there's reason to make a change and expect that Bailey is going to at least start the season as the primary guy, and Sanders, I'm sure will get some work, perhaps just as much as Bailey. But it is or I should say, it is not as clear cut as maybe I thought it was going to be coming into fall camp. So that will do it for today for our Wednesday C2-A-Days. Again, if you would, we would very much appreciate liking this video, subscribe to the Campus to Canton YouTube channel. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday, and then we'll have 2 more shows on Friday as well. And then it's time to kick off the 2023 college football season. So I am Nicholas Ian Allen for Campus to Canton. This has been the Wednesday PM edition of C2-A-Days.